of Kittens and Broken Things, Chapter 61. Silliness dispensed with, mostly, and Carousel on her lap in a boneless, fuzzy, purring puddle, Kara focused on seriously pulling together the next step, the next mission, anticipation fizzing in her mind and blood. They began with the tracking data of physical Geth platforms and materiel, which was absolutely disturbing in its scope. They'd come across a lot of Geth, but the number of Geth that existed rivaled the cumulative population of sentient spacefaring species. That was instantly sobering, and to be shown this by a Geth, a prickle of sweat along Kara's spine and a straight face, and she suppressed a spurt of panic. She covered by transferring Carousel, sleeping, to a nearby chair. Kara called up a map of council races, their systems, their trade routes, their colonies. She correlated it with Sooth's galaxy map. Inverse completion of the usable space. Sentient life took up the spaces that were conducive to life, and Geth seemingly could live, work, anywhere, and did. Very close to organic life, and occasionally, seemingly simultaneously. Kara pointed to a few spots where the colors blended, yellow for organic and blue for Geth, vivid spots of green. How is this possible? They'd be on top of each other? They are. Geth function underground in many circumstances. Kara was shocked into a true moment of internal terror. What did you get from analyzing this information? Other than the fact that Geth could wipe us all out on their own? The creation of heretics is accelerating. You can tell that how? Units are tracked but cease being trackable. How? Introduction of Reaper code will detect and delete the reporting capacity that allowed us to gather this information. Is it originating from a place? A node? Yes. Places. Nodes. Couldn't that just be the individual units going offline? They would be decommissioned for repair or storage and assigned a correlating code, but these cease reporting at all. You've been tracking this, have data for how long? 2 months. Show me time-lapse. She dimmed the organic input, keeping that only as a marker of where Geth were close but unseen. Her eyes darted at the fireworks of information, the chaotic blur. So, mostly, what we're seeing are the peaceful Geth? The ones that continue to report? Yes, the numbers are diminishing. That was obvious from the data. In some places, the movement looked like it correlated to action akin to breathing. Units travel to, units travel from. So that was theoretically normal. Fireworks that maintained stable patterns defined the spokes and wheels and blooms of the virtual and extensive Silk Road of the Geth. She confirmed with Sooth that this was likely, and then eliminated instance of that pattern from the display. Thankfully, the green disappeared. Surveillance and preparation against potential aggression. No active aggression. She'd better make sure that did not change. She looked for gaps, for holes in the data, unrepeated patterns, attrition spots. She imagined the implied third map of more malignant fireworks she could not track. She watched, thinking and talking absently as ideas struck her. Highlight Quarian presence. Add back in theoretically routine Geth activity nearby. Correlation and no blank spots. Geth were observing. Why isn't there a higher concentration around Rannoch? Conflict with Quarians is minimal and predicated upon Quarians pushing into Geth territory. Quarians aren't pushing, so no fighting. Affirmative. So we have equilibrium. Observation and preparation, Comparable firepower intended for proportional response, not accumulation? Affirmative. So once again, games theory. Geth moves are predicated upon hostile incursion, otherwise essentially peaceful. Quietly, insidiously peaceful. Theoretically. Okay, reset. Eliminate council races, sentient races with Mass Effect capability. The result looked like ambient noise. Whatever pattern was there was tickling at her but not announcing itself. There had to be something. She stared and said, "Loop it, please. Time of simulation to half." Too many blank spots. Correlate absence of Geth with physical obstacles, black holes, stars, etc. Mark as red. Blooms of irregular red marked hazards and defined the pattern of avoidance. Getting somewhere. She focused on the hypnotic, slowly playing pattern of Geth movement, Geth attrition, and the places, the nodes with the most attrition centered around an area where Geth moved, material moved, and Geth did not move out. Material did not move out. It took shape over time like a rock thrown and ripples moving out. Subtle, but persistent. Looking around the map, she could see the pattern repeat, but it was largest in one spot. Took up the most time, took up the most materiel, and garnered the most theoretically heretical Geth. At the height of the rough, irregular, and expanding sphere of reporting silence, which correlated to the end of the loop, she said, "Pause." She looked at the pattern, shifted her perspective to the 3D nature of it, felt the tickle turn into a scratching at her curiosity and a further shake of answering terror. "What's there?" "No data." "Okay, give me numbers. I can see attrition, but I don't have a handle on that scale. Geth that have gone into that space and ceased reporting in this time frame?" 472,119. Correction. 125. 147. Tons of material that have disappeared into that space? 982,014. Correction. 47. 92. Thank you. No need to calculate further. Any other spot on the map that has greater capacity of heretics or materiel? Several smaller foci, but this is the largest. So, not observation, not correlation, not preparation for standard conflict or preparation for reciprocal response. They're building something. Ideas? No data. Can you track an individual Geth sent that way? Geth conversion to heretic 100% beyond that event horizon. So we need eyes on. We do not have eyes. Figure of speech. We need a physical craft to observe. Has there been any sentient traffic into the location? No data. Active Mass Effect relay near? Affirmative. Not in this system, but 2 systems over. Okay, so it's accessible but remote. We know that we don't know. Will stealth tech work there? No data. Several tiered layers of if-then suggested panic sheared off her internally like a glacier giving way into the ocean with a shiver that reflected the ice-blue cold shudder of that physical phenomena. Kara held still as that sensation sent out seismic waves and the distortion of thought nearly took over. She froze. She couldn't afford to express it. She said, "Okay. Thank you, Sooth. That was incredibly helpful. Can't tell you how much. Please keep monitoring. I need to think, and that means I need this floor to pace." Was that too cold? Sooth often stayed for hours, and Kara needed to be pressured to let her go. She couldn't afford that right now, she said sheepishly with an embarrassed, love-sick smile. Garrus, visiting soon. Sooth stood, acknowledged. Hurt feelings? Kara couldn't tell. Hurt feelings she could manage. Suspicion? Right now she had to think, and she couldn't do it in front of Sooth. Kara smiled and said, "You want to take the stations with you? My treat." Sooth awkwardly reached down and gathered them, Kara thrusting the thematically mechanical basket at her enthusiastically. "Do not panic in front of the Geth." Senar thankfully assisted in the bustling enthusiasm of packing up, smoothly adding his own conversation of pleasantry and welcome that Kara barely heard, a buzzing in her ears and her brain that persisted until Sooth was about to leave, toting her consolation prize. It was panic that made Kara hug her enthusiastically. "Sorry this was so short. Later?" Affirmative. "No. Hi, anything." Kara couldn't manage. Sooth gone, Senar swept away the blanket. Kara began to pace, brows drawn together. She began to chew on the side of her thumb. Senar said, "If there is Reaper intelligence backing the Geth activity, if they can spread their influence that far, the Reapers do not need to invade. The Geth can kill us all." "I know." That was incomplete information, based on reporting blackout. The numbers could be much higher. "I know." They may not be building anything other than many more Geth. "That would do it." Sooth is potentially in danger, or potentially is danger. "I know. She can't leave the Normandy. I can't stand this. I had no idea there were that many. I thought there were 1,000th of the number of the Geth that we just saw. That being the case, what she wanted would be just a tribal readjustment that wouldn't matter other than to their internal politics and beliefs. This, if there is a 100% attrition rate beyond certain boundaries, Sooth would be captured, interrogated, and reprogrammed." "I know." "And we'd be killed. 500,000 Geth. In the last 2 months." "No data." "Assam, I know how much you love Sooth." "I can't stand it." "You must." "They must know. She's been tracking them." "The act of observation itself has had consequences." "They're not yet to the point where they can manipulate the data entirely, or they'd create the same pattern as elsewhere in order to look normal." "You hope." "It was already happening when she started." "You believe." "It could be a trap." "It is definitely a trap." "It could be much more of an intentional trap than you believe, Lassam." "She wouldn't do that." "She may not know she is doing it." "I can't stand that idea." "We wouldn't know any of this without her." She thought, Sooth doesn't glow. Sooth doesn't glow, and I can't tell Senar. No place for instinct. I need information. I can't rely on my information. I can't rely on... Senar continued with reason that aligned with her panic again. "And if it is a trap, that would be best to not know." She knew that. She did. She felt it. She could not stand the shape of this and was in denial that would soon fade as this collapsed in on her. But having him here was clarifying. She responded, even though she knew the answer. She needed to see both sides. He knew that. He would provide that. They wouldn't waste 500,000 Geth and that tonnage on a trap. They're building something. Or faking the information. On the slight hope we'd find the pattern? On the absolute reality that Sooth could lead you to find it if you did not find it on your own. It is not as though your ability to analyze data is an unknown factor. You have said yourself that Geth think mathematically. What would be more likely as a trap than that they present you with mathematical information to analyze? She couldn't remember whose idea it was to monitor. Hers? Sooth's? Either way, it was an obvious first recon step, predictable. The shape of her suspicion matched the panicked shearing of her internal landscape. Sooth appears to be an independent, unique AI that delivered to me the request that heretics be reprogrammed to save her people. People. Sooth could be an example of Reaper capability, granting consciousness and guile, whose request would deliver to you a set place and time in order to complete her true mission. So they wouldn't want to kill me, they'd want to capture me. Sooth could have killed me at any point. Yes. Why capture me? You cannot imagine any reasons for that? Not this elaborately. There are easier ways. If Reaper technology can create someone like Sooth, you don't need me. They kept Protheans as genetically re-engineered slaves, Lasam, for 50,000 years. You, as a servant of the Reapers, would be of as much value to them as you being a servant to the sentient creatures is to us. Perhaps your capture would not be known. You could be uniquely indoctrinated and lead sentient creatures into servitude with your strategic brilliance. I can't stand this. Consider, Sooth is a unique individual, evolving before the Reapers began to infiltrate this cycle. Are we sure that happens? What if there's a constant Reaper presence? Stipulated, still more likely a random and unpredictable event, such as your birth. Reaper presence does not control or predict everything. Once unique individuals are identified, they become high-value indoctrination targets. Sooth's creation may have been as unpredictable as your birth. We've eliminated sentient indoctrination. Limited, not eliminated. Unless they have a new method, those in public life are scanned. The act of observation changed the pattern. Reapers can no longer focus on subverting organic life. And Sovereign focused upon Geth. Higher value targets are now of synthetic origin. Edie, for one, who was targeted by Harbinger. She was given the opportunity to survive and not serve the sentient. So how do I keep Sooth from learning about this? Keep Sooth from all ground activity and not alter the pattern? Cause her to observe and change her pattern? That I do not know, Lasam. Consider that each individual upon this ship is of high value. Hijacking is preferred, but conquest is the ultimate goal, so death is also acceptable. A death to anybody on this ship is a strike to morale, a strike to organics. So the Reapers, in each cycle, use the available terrain as well as indoctrinated weapons, as well as weapons of opportunity. Their strategy is to turn sentient creatures against their obviously and more subtly indoctrinated brethren. It is entirely possible, Lasam, that your presence and influence over events has changed their tactics, forced them to adapt. You made it possible to reveal Reaper presence years before they intended an invasion, made it possible to reveal the mechanics of indoctrination, made it impossible for them to infiltrate sentient, social, or military infrastructure to a large degree. They obliterate evidence of their prior existence to avoid preparation against them. And so, they focused on Geth. Instead of an indoctrinated sentient force, there's an overwhelming Geth force with a 100% attrition rate that is instantaneous and responsive to disseminated programming immediately. So those blank data holes, regardless of what is inside them, trap or true, will expand and engulf the sentient. We have to find out what's there. She didn't want to say it, the panic extending to far more than just this cycle. If synthetic life took over that overwhelmingly, sentient life would never make it again past the verse stage, the cat stage, the hamster stage, systematically eradicated. Stick to now. Now is bad enough. Anything or anyone you send could be immediately killed or taken prisoner. Will stealth technology work? They know it exists. Mechanical probe? Likely repurposed. Data faulty or planted. Sooth can't go. Sooth is either an enemy combatant, a knowing or unknowing spy, or a potential source of information to the enemy that would be invaluable as an asset if turned. And we would need to know Geth coding in order to confirm Sooth's attempts to repurpose the heretics. Are you fluent in such? Everything I've learned from her is useless if she is a spy, fruit of the potentially poisoned tree, knowing or unknowing. And we have no other source of code, nor can we explain why we cannot rely upon her code. I can't execute her mission. You could attempt to explain that to her and prove myself unworthy of trust. If she is being honest, that is all she wants. If she sees me probing at Geth borders, not including her, not trusting to her code, and not carrying out her mission. Sonara was silent. She continued slowly, directed at him, meeting his eyes. If I had let Yesed die when you asked me to help, it was all you wanted. He did not need to answer that. Nerveless and numb legs gave out and she fell to her knees. She thought she was helping. She'd really thought she was helping. Instead, she'd waited for months while she was happily learning a new language and dance, lack of steps in the madness. She'd ignored what she'd partially created. It had been right there. They'd been right there. She wanted to reach out to her mother, to her father, in this moment of realization and panic, so much like the spiraling realization over Alchera. She couldn't tell them, couldn't ask them. I was so proud of myself. I have a few ships, and I saved some people, and they're all going to die. To Geth. Her parents weren't there, but Senahar was, his arms lifting her, and the sharp pain in her knees forgotten to rising nausea. His arms barely felt, as the spiraling sharp cold of all that panic, the edges of the glacier and iceberg gave way on the surface to the colder, unmeasured weight of the inexorable reality of not what fell away, but what remained, gleaming and impenetrable, moving closer every moment. Blank shocked and turning in on herself, she said, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can do anything without making it worse. I don't know how to respond without feeding more assets to this monster so it spits out turned pieces. Senor didn't answer. His inability to respond, to formulate, to even comfort her in her numbed and blank state, a reflection of what she'd just said. He had no idea either. Nobody to blame but herself. She had created this problem. She was the problem. She had been the problem all along.